So I want to talk a little bit about words today. Ever since I've been doing SaaS products, words have always been a big part of design. And when I was younger, I really spent a lot of time trying to edit my words to say things in the right way for instructional text or just explaining the app inside the product. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that people generally don't read or want to read a lot of text in a piece of software. I know this because we sometimes will introduce a new feature that has some explanatory text and we'll still get some feedback around that feature that's already been answered in the text. And so this isn't something that I blame the user for. I do the same thing. People generally, when they're using software, they click around, get a feel for things, and that's how they learn. They're not really wanting to spend time, just like you wouldn't want to open up in a large instruction manual to read how to set up your VCR back in the day. So one thing I've been trying to do over the years with words is to become very terse and very and really try to parse words down. In some cases, to eliminate words. So I want to show you a couple of ways we do that in Done Done. You're looking at the detail page for a task here. I don't have a description in this case, but one of the things that we've gone back and forth on over the years is just the removal of small bits of text. So for example here, you'll see that there's this item here. This is March 7th, 2023, and this indicates when this particular task was due. And in the past, we've had it say due, colon, and then the date itself. And also in the past, I think we've even had this calendar icon with the date itself. And as I mentioned earlier, people do better when there's less text. And so in this case, not having any indication of due-ness, not even saying due, seems to be a worthwhile trade-off because there really wouldn't be any other reason for a date here in this drop-down format. Same thing goes for the priority here. We could have easily said that or put a label and have these options, but it's pretty clear from this what any of these options would mean. There's a criticality or priority to this particular drop down. That's what that means. Same thing over on status here. These are different statuses. We don't write status, and on the assignee as well, we don't write assignee. We do introduce some iconography here. I've always been of the opinion that icons, when they're used to be a primary means of navigation, that can get tricky. We do it up here a little bit. These search buttons or search icons obvious, some alert stuff, an add button. That's okay, but when it comes to things like this where we're talking about more, maybe more complicated or not as simple things like conversations or workflows or people, I think having text is always going to be better. So in general, for me, it's about trying to figure out where we can get rid of words and still keep the meaning. Introducing iconography lightly to help suggest what things are, but in general, if there's ways you can remove words, that's always beneficial. Now I want to show you a totally separate area where I thought there's a nice use of words. I'm going to go to the auto response section of a mailbox. Now, in Done Done, you can send auto responses based on two levers. So one of them is you can send a different auto response for an incoming mail or email if it's a new email, as well as one for a reply to an existing email. You can also decide to send auto responses during office hours or after office hours, depending on whether you configure them or not. So there's essentially 4 different cases for which you can send a different auto response. And the way we handle that here is, we have the title of the auto response and then just a bit of text describing when this particular auto response will be sent. In this case, it says always enabled. So essentially, it's always going to send no matter what. If I go in and add a new one here, you can see here's where I am allowing you to select the different kinds of responses. And in this case, let me do it so that new conversations, whether they're after office hours or during, will be sent. So if I add this here, you'll notice for this test 2, the verbiage here doesn't say new conversations after office hours, comma, new conversations during office hours. It just says all new conversations. because that encompasses both office hours or after office hours. At the same time, what happens is for the existing one, we remove those options off the previous auto response. So now essentially all replies will use this auto response. So if I were to tweak this further, let's say I were to change this to new conversations after office hours and replies after office hours, you can see now this just says after office hours. So any response or any email that comes in after office hours, this is the response that'll be sent, and then the remainder will be for this fallback auto response. So replies during office hours here, as you can see here. So what's neat about this is that if I were to add a third one here, let's see what happens here. Again, we don't specify all three bits of text here in the description as to when these auto responses are sent. Instead, we try to parse it down. So we can say after office hours and new conversations during office hours instead of saying all three of these things. So these simple little ways we can get around trying to not be so wordy. Sometimes that means removing text. Sometimes that means taking this information and reducing that text based on the states to something that's a little more condensed. Those are the ways in which I look at text on a product, and I hope you enjoy this video.